My uncle used to drive this guy to the airport every few months. Same routine. Early morning, no luggage, just a carry-on. Guy wore the same navy jacket every time. Drove a 2009 Camry with a cracked dashboard. Tipped $20, said thank you like he meant it. My uncle figured he was a mid-level manager somewhere. Maybe makes 60, 70 grand. Then one day my uncle Googled the guy's name off the business card. The man had a net worth north of $200 million, and he was sitting in the front seat asking my uncle about his kids. That's not humility as a performance. That's stealth wealth. And once you learn to read the signals, you see them everywhere. The first signal? What they spend on versus what they don't. And here's the pattern. The truly wealthy almost always have one or two objects of serious, deliberate quality. And everything else? Unremarkable. Average. Sometimes beat up. There's a name for this in behavioral finance research. It's called inconspicuous consumption. The idea that as you move up the wealth ladder, visible status signaling actually decreases. It doesn't increase. Think about that. Every instinct you have says rich people flaunt it, but the data says the opposite. A 2019 study out of University of Chicago found that high-income consumers in dense social networks actually suppress status signals more than lower-income consumers. Because they don't need external validation, their identity isn't tied to what you think of them. The person dripping in logos, often renting that identity. The person with the 20-year-old Rolex and the dented Honda Pilot, they bought the watch because they love watches. The car is just a car. Quality compounds quietly. Status depreciates loudly. Second signal, watch how someone talks about time, not their schedule, their horizon. The wealthy aren't smarter. I want to be clear on that. This is not an intelligence gap. It is a survival mode gap. When you're financially stressed, your brain literally cannot plan long-term. This is documented neuroscience. Scarcity narrows cognitive bandwidth. You're not thinking about decade-long compounding when you're worried about next month's rent. But the stealth wealth signal isn't that they talk about long-term planning, it's that they're boring about short-term chaos. Market drops 40%? They shrug. Inflation spikes? They note it, adjust, move on. They're not performing calm. They're structurally insulated from short-term panic. That's the wealth psychology at work. It's not wisdom. It's runway. They have enough buffer that the short term is just noise. And that behavioral advantage, thinking in decades, is something you can start practicing before the money arrives. Third signal. Pay close attention to this one because it shows up in every wealth tier. Have you ever noticed how certain people love to tell you what things cost? Not bragging exactly, just mentioning it. Yeah, that watch ran me about 8 grand. We paid just under 2 million for the place. They're not showing off the asset. They're showing off the number. That's a financial psychology tell. Volunteering price signals that your identity is still tethered to the amount. You haven't separated yourself from the number yet. The number defines you, so you lead with it. Now watch the wealthy version of this. Someone asks what a beach house cost. The answer is usually a deflection. Oh, it's been in the family, or we got lucky on the timing, or just a topic change so smooth you barely notice. Not because they're secretive, because the number is genuinely irrelevant to how they feel about it. Real financial security doesn't need a price tag. The number is the story only when you don't have enough story without it. Fourth signal, and this one is about emotional regulation. It's subtle, but it's one of the most reliable tells I've found. When something bad happens, market event, economic news, business setback, watch the room. The financially fragile respond emotionally and publicly. Not because they're weak people, because the threat is real and immediate to them. The fear is legitimate, but the stealth wealth response is different. Not stoic exactly. More like mildly inconvenienced. They've been through enough cycles to know that this, too, is just a cycle. They've built buffers. They've stress-tested scenarios. The disaster lands on a foundation that was built for disasters. Behavioral finance calls this loss aversion asymmetry. Wealthier investors literally experience the psychological pain of loss differently, not because they don't feel it, but because the loss doesn't threaten survival. The emotion gets decoupled from the outcome. Composure isn't a personality type, it's a structural outcome. Build the runway first, and the composure tends to follow. Fifth signal, try to find a truly wealthy person on social media. Not a celebrity, not a founder playing the press game. I mean generational, old money, compounding for decades wealthy. You can't find them. This is an accident. It's architecture. Real wealth runs from attention. Because attention creates surface area for attack, legal, social, competitive. Every follower is a potential liability. Every post is a data point for someone who wants something from you. Meanwhile, visibility is confused with status at the middle levels. Followers feel like wealth. Engagement feels like power. But those are metrics of attention, not metrics of net worth. There's a reason the influencer with 1 million followers is often broke, and the guy with 0 posts just bought his 3rd apartment building. Quiet wealth runs from visibility the same way real money runs from inflation, because exposure erodes it. Sixth signal, and this one you can actually use as a framework starting today. I call it the 2 nice things rule. They pick 1 or 2 categories where they spend seriously. Maybe it's food, maybe it's travel, maybe it's a single piece of art or a well-built watch. Within those categories, they do not compromise. But outside of those categories, they are aggressively, almost suspiciously, unremarkable. This isn't frugality, it's allocation psychology. Every dollar spent performing wealth to strangers is a dollar not compounding. The wealthy solved this equation a long time ago. You can apply this right now, not the spending, the decision architecture. Decide what you actually care about. Fund that at full quality. Make everything else invisible. Here's what ties all of this together. The signals aren't about money, they're about composure. The watch, the silence, the boredom, the invisibility, they're all the same thing. Proof that you're not in survival mode anymore. And here's the part nobody says out loud. Composure is learnable before the money arrives. You don't need the net worth to practice the psychology. The behavioral patterns that come with wealth, the patience, the quiet, the long horizon, the refusal to perform, those are available to you right now. And what the research on wealth psychology keeps showing us is that the behavior often precedes the outcome. The composure tends to attract the capital, not the other way around. If this gave you a useful frame for how you see money, drop quiet wealth in the comments. That tells me this kind of behavioral finance content is landing, and I'll keep going deeper. And if you're not subscribed yet, the channel is called Success Symptoms for a reason. We're not here to talk about what to buy. We're here to talk about how to think,